tools were to be provided and to help the people adapt to a new way of life. So remember, we talked about that in the past. They were nomadic people, right? They traveled around wherever they could find food. So if there wasn't enough food to hunt and fish in this area, then I packed up my things and I moved to the next area. Now the government is saying you must live in this area. You must not move around. You must stay on the reserve. So in order to live there, they need to be taught how to live there. Meaning they need to understand how to farm, right? Because if they don't have animals to fish and hunt, then they're going to need to grow their food. Okay? So the government said, we're going to teach you. We're going to give you the tools. We're going to give you the seeds. We're going to teach you how to do it. But as we know with these treaties, they often do not come through with the promises, right? So the next one, Treaty 2, the involved parties was the Government of Canada and the Anishinaabe of Southern Manitoba. Southern Manitoba is the land area, and the treaty key points, the Anishinaabe were promised land of 160 acres for each family of 5, as well as annual payments and new schools on the new reserve lands, and they were verbally promised new farming equipment and tools, but this was not written into the treaty. Okay. Nathan, you should have your note out if you checked it against mine. Treaty 3. The involved parties were the Saulteaux, or the Ojibwa, First Nations, and the Government of Canada. The land area was the Treaty 3 lands are located in northwestern Ontario and part of eastern Manitoba. And the key points here: the government promised reserve lands, but were far away and not located in any mining areas and monetary payments. So basically, the government's offering land that they don't want. Doesn't have any use to them. The Saulteaux were permitted to hunt and fish in their traditional lands until the land was needed by the government, and the government was also responsible for providing the Saulteaux with agricultural tools and livestock, which were in poor conditions when they arrived many years later than promised. The involved parties for Treaty 4, the Cree, the Saulteaux, and the Assiniboine, First Nations people, and the Canadian government. Treaty 4 lands are in the present-day southern Saskatchewan, western Manitoba, and southern Alberta, so in the prairies. Each family, up to 5 people, would get 640 acres of land. So we keep seeing that number 640 come up again and again. $12 per community member upon signing the treaty. Annual monetary payments as well as money to buy the tools needed for fishing and farming. Schools were also to be built on the reserves, create a special area called the Treaty Ground to conduct official business, and Indigenous people were also granted rights to hunt, fish, and trap in all of their traditional lands, unless they were being used for agriculture, forestry, mining, or settlement. So basically, yeah, the government saying you can have these lands unless we decide we want them back because there's something valuable there. So here, you can live here until I take it back from you, right? Not very fair. Treaty 5 was Ojibwa, Swampy Cree of Lake Winnipeg, and the Government of Canada. Involves land in central and northern Manitoba and areas of Saskatchewan and areas of Ontario. The treaty key points: a one-time payment of $5 for each community member. Each family would receive 160 acres of land, and money that was given for farming and fishing tools, but was also less than other treaties. Okay, and the government also promised to build schools and provide annual cash payments. We're seeing the same thing kind of come up over and over, right? That 160 acres of land, although the last treaty something was 640, right? So, but that was 640 in the middle of the prairies, right? So it makes a little bit of difference there. Money given for farming and fishing and tools. Promising to build schools. So it's kind of the same. The government just keeps promising the same thing to each group that they're negotiating with, right? If they can get it down lower, they have to give less they can, because not every First Nations group negotiated in the same way. Involved parties for Treaty 6 was Cree, the Assiniboine, Ojibwa, and the Canadian government. Includes portions of Alberta and Saskatchewan. Community members were given an annual cash payment of $5, a one-time payment of $12 for each community member. Each family of 5 was given about 2.5 kilometers squared of reserved land. So interesting, I said to my class, I wasn't sure, we didn't look it up yet, but I wonder who's getting more. Is it the 640 acres? 120, well, we know 160 acres is less than 640. Well, what does that look like compared to 2.5 kilometers squared? Interesting. And schools were to be built on the reserves. The government was to provide farming tools and livestock, and rights to hunt, continue to hunt, fish, and trap animals on their land was granted. The last one saw the government negotiating with various First Nations people from parts of Alberta. Each family was given 6.47 kilometers squared of land. So again, using kilometers in this case instead of acres. All communities were moved to reserved lands. One-time payment of $12 was given to each community member. Annual payments of $5 to each community member. More if you held higher status. The chiefs were given clothing, a rifle, medal, and a flag. The school was to be built on the reserve, and the teacher's salary was to be paid by the government. The government promised tools, ammunition, and livestock for the First Nations communities. And First Nations were permitted hunting and fishing rights as long as the government did not need the land. So very similar. But please make sure that you take the time to have all of the information for each treaty down in your notes. This is unlocked, as I said, so you can see it, but it won't be after today. Okay? Today.
Don't hold it down. Well, it's on, right? So maybe one that just doesn't turn on should. Yeah, sometimes it has to be restarted. Yeah, just give it to Miss Kaz and tell her that it's not working. Doesn't turn on. Nathan, would you count this as cheating? Would you count this as cheating? Because I just copied all the notes from the sample. I'm just trying to cut it down so it wouldn't be a waste of paper. It's kind of disturbing that Jacob just has a picture of me saved on his phone.
Yeah. I have that on my tablet, but seriously.
Yeah. My face feels awful.
The only reason why I did that is just to send it to you in the description.
Yeah.
I don't think
What?
it doesn't do anything.